Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to Beyond the Beret. Today I have peaches. Right. So you gotta you gotta
It
tell
is
me the
weird to say.
story
I'll
behind that
admit
one, dude.
it's weird. It's weird to say. You got a
It
grown ass
is,
man, got a grown ass man sitting on the other end of the thing. You're calling him peaches. It's
dude.
gotten
I
people
just
in trouble before.
I just watched Mario Brothers like 10 times with my kids, and all I keep thinking about is Princess Peaches. So please, if you don't mind, let me know what the story behind the nickname is, if you don't mind sharing.
Well, you know how it is in selection. They look for ways to degrade you, and they look for ways to make fun of you and stuff like that. And there's also a lot of yelling and all that kind of good stuff. So during NDOC, which was our selection in the Air Force for pararescue and combat control, it was easier to yell peaches, and it seemed degrading since my last name is Petrus. So it just kind of stuck. And instead of making it seem like it bothered me, I just embraced it. And then it just kind of stuck. And turns out that it has lasted, the last 24, almost 25 years now. So throughout the pipeline. And now I just introduce myself like that because it sticks with people. It like it's usually a conversation starter. And then, they don't forget it. They'll forget
No,
Jared.
yeah,
Yeah, like that's an easily forgettable name. They don't forget Peaches. And then
yeah.
kind of find out, I guess, learned this a couple years ago from an Army 82nd Airborne two-star. I guess General Petraeus also goes by Peaches. So I didn't know that either, but no relation there.
Yeah, but that's something that often happens in the community. Like guys will get these nicknames that are just fucking out there, and then
Yep.
us being the type of men that we are, instead of letting it defeat us, we just kind of adapt it and fucking make it popular and make it a part of our persona. So that's pretty cool, man.
Well,
Um,
dude, as soon as you let something bother you, oh dude, the dudes are going right in on it and they
yeah,
are relentless.
because as soon as dude, it's like a pack of wolves, right? They they
Oh
they
man,
they, they can smell it.
just blood in the water. Just
Oh yeah. So yeah, if you don't mind, man, let's start off by letting the folks know who you are, where you grew up, upbringing, and what led you to joining the Air Force and gravitating towards special operations.
yeah, man. So I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, so that's why I often mess people's names up on our own podcast. So yeah, got that South Carolina education, but yeah, I came in. I didn't have any like I had a really good childhood, really good upbringing. Parents were awesome. I got a little brother, so a lot of us in our career field, we end up coming from like we have a lot of struggle in our childhoods and stuff like that. And I'm one of the folks that I'm like, well, I didn't. I had an awesome childhood. I didn't grow up well off or anything like that, but no issues, right? And so grew up playing sports and the whole deal, and I got to a point where I guess I was probably 15 or so, and I had always loved movies, and I know you're going to relate to this. Always loved movies like Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, all those you just movies that just called to me, right? Called to guys like us. And I was like, all right, I want to do something like that. So I hadn't skydived, but I always wanted to go skydiving. I wanted to jump out of planes, ride motorcycles, shoot guns, go diving, all the things that we do. And I was like, well, the quickest route I can go because I checked out all of them. I checked out the Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Air Force was kind of the quickest route because in '99, when I came in to be a SEAL or to be a Green Beret, they didn't have the X-ray program at that point. So you had to go do something else. And then I don't know what the Army calls it, but then you had to cross train or try out to go to the Q course and all that kind of stuff. Um, so the Air Force was like direct right in. It's like, well, that's the route I'm going to go. And so I left when I was 17. Parents allowed me to go and then had some struggles in the pipeline, just like everybody does, right? Because nobody gets out of there unscathed.
Yeah.
And so 2.5 years in the pipeline, came out and combat controller. So first assignment was at Pope Air Force Base, or what is now Pope Army Airfield.
Hmm.
And then let's see, while I was in the pipeline is when that happened. So Finished out the pipeline, had to graduate, that kind of deal, and then went. So I missed the initial push in, but I still got in on the O2 rotation, the kind of like second wave going in,
Gotcha.
and then like on and on and on. So I've been doing this for since 99.
Oh wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So now, because it's there's just so much there. Because I know that the fucking combat controller pipeline is not easy. It's like I would even go as far as to say that it's probably one of the hardest ones out there as far as academics and also all the blocks you guys have to check, right?
Yep.
So I would go as far as to say that. Now you're 17. Like, how was that conversation with your mom and dad? Because, like you mentioned, you guys grew up, not well off, but like decent family situation. So
Yeah.
what, like, how was that conversation? Like, hey, I want to join the military. I mean, like,
Well, it was weird because in high school, I did about a week. I don't even think it was a week of the junior ROTC. And I was like, nope, I am not okay with having my classmates yell at me for no reason. Like,
mhm,
why?
yeah,
So I stopped junior ROTC. So everybody was like, oh, well, he's not going to be military. So at all. And, and then I ended up doing this. So it was
yeah,
just, um, there was never a skepticism about whether or not I would be able to do it.
mhm,
It was just, I was always I was never a conformist.
yeah,
So they were like, I don't know how this is going to work, but they supported the hell out of me. And again, that was before, or that was right at the beginning of kind of cell phones and that kind of
mhm,
stuff. So we still had phone banks in the dorms at selection and stuff like that. So I mean, every day I was calling back as a 17, 18-year old, just getting my ass handed to me, and having never really been away from home either. So I was extremely homesick. So I was dealing with that and dealing with seeing dudes that were older than me that were already in the Air Force that were trying out to be PJs or CCT, dudes that were, graduated college, and I'm seeing them quit and I'm still here. And I was always comparing myself to them, going like, oh man, I don't, if they're not making it and they're physical specimens and they're older and more mature, if they're not making it, what chance do I have? And then kind of by luck or attrition, I was one of the last ones kind of there. So it's
yeah,
like, okay, well, I guess I got it,
yeah.
you
Now,
know?
how did you find out about special operation? Was it through the movies and all of that, or did you talk to anybody? Like, how did that? Because yeah, you want to join the army, but we all know, or the military, but we all know there's millions of fucking jobs out
Oh
there.
yeah.
Like, how did you know about special operations specifically?
But just from movies, really. I didn't know about pararescue. I didn't know about combat control.
Mhm.
Everybody knows about Green Berets. Everybody knows about SEALs. And MARSOC, the MSOCs weren't a thing
Yeah,
then. So it was like, well, those are the routes I'm going to go. And then somebody, you know, I don't remember exactly how, but somebody handed me like a little trifold pamphlet that had a PJ on it. And so originally I came in to be a PJ because I didn't know about CCT.
mhm.
And then when I show up at selection, there's these CCT candidates, CCT instructors, and they kind of taught us or educated us on what they did, and then they gave us a chance to go PJ or CCT.
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, it was very fortunate because
Yeah.
I don't know how good of a PJ I would have made.
Dude, I just think it's amazing, man, because you're 17 and I hear all these stories to include mine. Like we all just join the military and the recruiters give us these random jobs and then later on we find out like, hey, we can go do other things. But to at such a young age
Yeah,
to know exactly, hey, I want to be special operation and 17, 18 to actually go through it. That's an anomaly within itself. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
dude. Well, it's one of those things where you want to be the dude, or at least for me, I wanted to be the dude that everybody depended on, everybody counted on. Everybody's like, you wanted this thing or this situation handled, like he's the dude for the job.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted to be. And I don't know that I ever attained that, but that's kind of who I wanted to go in there and fix things and be the one that everybody looked to succeed.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, it speaks to your upbringing, the fact that you knew what you wanted and you went through selection with all these different folks, and then you were, one of the last ones left. So that's awesome, man. Now, do you remember exactly what you were doing 9/11? Like what exactly you had going on and how
Yeah, I was
that day
there.
developed for you?
Yeah, man. Well, it's nothing like yours. Like we already talked about that. Like your
Yeah.
day was much more heinous than mine,
Yeah.
considering where you were at. But I was already in, and I was at the gym, Jack and Steel on Hurlburt Field,
Hmm.
out in Florida. So, let's see, we're Central Time, so I think that was like 6 or 7 in the morning,
Hmm.
Central Time when all that happened. And so just Jack and Steel, and they had the old tube TVs kind of up in the corners, and then everybody always had CNN on, and then that's why I saw that everybody's just kind of drawn, and then
Yeah.
as soon as you see this, like the first plane, nobody knew that it was an airliner. Everybody's like, oh, it's probably a Cessna, something like that,
Hmm.
just some private pilot jackass messed up and hit the tower. And then as everybody's watching, you could see the second plane go in, and everybody's like, oh, this is not an accident.
Hmm.
Everybody just dropped the weights and freaking started going to the unit and hit pinging intel and see what's going on and seeing what was going to happen next. Obviously, the base is locked down and all that kind of stuff. And then they started doing constant perimeter security all around all the bases. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Now,
what
were
it
you
was for
still in
me.
training?
Technically, yeah, I was still in training and I still had a couple more months before graduation.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I think that day changed it all for us military folks. Now,
Oh yeah.
that happens. You get done with training. You said you ended up here at Pope. Leading up to that point, like, how were you feeling? Were you happy that you joined? Were you having a good old time? Was it everything that you expected? Like, what's going through your head at this point?
Yeah, man. I actually I've been in for 25 years now. I have yet to have a point or an extended period. I'll say that an extended period of time where I'm like, man, I wish I hadn't joined. Obviously, you go through bad days, bad weeks, bad months, or maybe even a bad assignment where you're like, dude, or a bad command, and you're like, dude, what are we doing here? But through all the deployments, and yeah, and it sucks because you've lost friends, you've lost brothers in arms, the whole deal, right? But never have I been, dude, I regret joining. I just it's been so much fun. And I've had such great experiences, met incredible people. And I have a lot to thank and a lot of gratitude towards what the Air Force and the military has done for me because it has set me on a path. I wouldn't have met my wife, which means I wouldn't have had the kids, um, the friends and the assignments and the places I got to live. It's been incredible. I would do it all over again if I could. And so when I talk to a lot of these recruits that are coming in or interested in joining, I'm jealous in a way because
Yeah.
they get to live that from and I know what they're about to go through, and I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, it's so awesome. Yeah, the pipeline sucks. You're gonna get
Yeah.
selected, and you're gonna get hammered every single day, but it's so much fun, and it's
Yeah.
so worth it.
Yeah. I think folks are gonna listen to this and they're like, these guys are fucking sociopaths. Like,
Yeah,
what? Like who? And it just goes to show you, like, yes, like it takes a different breed of men to do this. You know what I mean? Like it's not for everybody.
no,
But everybody else is, sucking or they want to stay away from it. And here we are running towards it, and enjoying every minute of it. And like, yeah, that's like that Dexter mentality, like he's enjoying cutting people up and shit. Like there's nothing normal about that. But like folks like us are a necessity, so it is what it is.
yeah, that's true.
Now,
We are a necessity.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Now for folks that don't know what a combat controller is and what a combat controller does, can you elaborate on um some of your training as far as like because we have the qualification course. What do you guys have? and what exactly is the job of a combat controller?
Yeah, so we have in the pipeline's changed from when I went through,
Mhm.
but now it is a it's still about 2.5 years, really. The pipeline is 2 to 2.5 years, depending on how schools align and injuries and that kind of stuff. But we still have a selection, an assessment and selection, just like Green Berets, SEALs, MARSOC. But then we have different shred outs in terms of, we have pararescue, we have combat controller, and we have special reconnaissance. And then our pararescue men are the kind of medical rescue specialist, high angle specialist, confined space specialist, um, special reconnaissance. They do reconnaissance, electronic warfare, that kind of stuff. And then combat control, we are focused on air traffic control, force projection kind of thing. So think of airfields. You see a dry lake bed, or you see a remote highway out in, Eastern Bloc Europe or something like that. We can go in there and set up an airfield, land aircraft, get people out, whether it's a non-combatant evacuation or whether it's calling in air support in terms of close air support because most of us are joint terminal attack controllers or JTAC qualified, so we can call in airstrikes. Um, so it's that kind of thing, and I'm, I'm excuse me, I'm trying not to cough. So for everybody that's out there,
No, you're good.
I am a little sick right now. So that's what it is. And generally, like, now we have started operating as single entities in terms of teams, but historically we have been attached to Green Beret teams, SEAL teams, some of the international special operations teams. Um, so that's really our bread and butter.
Gotcha. Now, when you say you guys started uh doing operation in like small teams, like you're talking about like, hey, like a team of like 3 to 4 CCTs going out and conducting operations um by themselves out wherever, or are you talking about something different?
Well, we're scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Doctrinally, in terms of where we go out, you're talking about 14-man teams,
Yeah.
right? Which are a mixture of CCT, PJ, and special reconnaissance, and probably a soft TACP or tactical air control party. Um, so we've got a mix of that so that we have capabilities kind of similar to an ODA in terms of, like, okay, we've got an 18 Delta that's focused on medical stuff. That kind of layout so that we can be self-sufficient. Um,
Gotcha.
but are we scalable? Yeah. Like, if you need us to do it, say it's a permissive environment, like it's some kind of humanitarian disaster relief thing, then we can go in there with, say, 4 dudes, jump in and set up an airfield. We could do that with 4 guys easily.
Gotcha. And still be able to, move, shoot, do all that good stuff that any other, operators can do. And then you
Yep.
still have your special or your specialty and still be able to, exfil and do all that stuff, like all within house, right? Because, and maybe this is to my ignorance, but I've always, every time I've worked with you guys, it's always been in a uh, JTAC
Hmm.
capacity, right?
Yep.
So to hear that you guys also have the ability to go in behind enemy lines with other CCTs, PJs, and all that, and still be able to, operate just like a group of Green Berets would. That's actually eye opening, right? Because I've
Yeah. I
never
mean,
done that before.
because that's what we spend most of our time. Like, when we talk about GWAT and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like, we did spend most of our time doing the JTAC mission. And that's kind of where we really, I mean, we were around before that, but the last 20 years, we really made a name for ourselves doing that. And, you know, it, yeah, we had airfield stuff, MSS site, mission support sites randomly. We could pop those up all over Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, you think about disaster reliefs in what you had: Haiti, you
Mhm.
had Puerto Rico, you had Biloxi, Mississippi,
Mhm.
right? For Katrina, you had Fukushima in Japan. There was earthquakes in Pakistan. So we will go in there and we'll do that kind of stuff. You got things in Africa. We did the Neo in Cyprus. Yeah, I think it was Cyprus. So It's being able to go into a place that is permissive, non-permissive, set up an airfield, get people in, get supplies in, get people out. Or maybe it's a high value target getting, extradited or something like that. And you've got to get planes in, you got to get a large force in,
Hmm.
and then you got to get them out.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Now, before we move forward, like what advice would you have for anybody trying to gravitate towards that route? Because I know you guys do have your YouTube channel where you help coach, teach, and mentor. But what advice would you have for uh, the younger 17-year-old peaches trying to go towards special operations? Like, what advice would you have for that young man?
Don't compare yourself to everybody else. That was the mistake I did. I looked during selection, I trained just like everybody else did because there's no way you're making it through buds, the Q course, NDOC, or any assessment selection, any of the assessment selections without training. So that's a given. But looking at other folks around you and comparing yourself and going, I don't have what he has, or maybe I don't have what it takes, and oh my God, he's quitting. What chance do I have? Don't compare yourself. Just be your own person. Focus on what you can focus on, control what you can control, and just do the best job you possibly can.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it's that self-assess model, you know what I mean? Like, because I know it happens, dude. I think it happens with all of special operations selection, right? Like there's always going to be a degree of self-assessing going on because some guys are just wired that way, right? Like I know, like I would do it like, but it was weird because with me, like I would assess myself, but I would compete at the same time. Like I would be like, oh
Yeah.
man, this guy's fast. Like let me try to catch up to him, right? Like, and when I pass him, I'm like, oh, my chance of getting selected just went up. You know what I mean? And then there were guys that I couldn't catch, and I would be like, God dang it, man! Like my chance of selection just dropped because I do this faster. So yeah, that can definitely be detrimental. You know what I mean? So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I agree 100%.
Especially, man, there are some specimens out there. They are not affected by the pool.
Yeah.
Like they can just run for days. They can just do 40 pull-ups. And you're just like, dude, I am maxed out right now. Like, like how are you continue going? And then, can't smoke me, Sergeant, that kind of stuff. And dude's
Yeah.
just getting hammered all day long. And they're just give it to me. I
Yeah.
can't get enough. And I'm like, oh,
So now, as it relates to combat controllers, like how are you guys task organized? I've always been curious about that because do you guys like work in conjunction with the PJs and the recon guys that just got stood up? Like how are you, or are you guys like separate entities where you guys are completely separated?
so now we are all combined and we have been for years now. Um, we've got PJs, combat controllers, special reconnaissance, and soft tac Ps, all at STSs or special tactics squadrons.
Mhm.
Um, now, for the non-soft tac Ps, they are at air support operations squadrons. Those are at ASOSs. Those are generally attached to army bases. So your Fort Hood, your Fort Irwins, that Bragg has them. They're all over the place. Fort Polk, um, Fort Campbell. There's ASOSs that are conventional TAC Ps there, and then you also have rescue units that are only PJs. Now some of them have a couple others like TAC Ps or something like that in them, but generally they are all PJs and they are just doing all rescues. So we have one here at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas
Mhm.
that do rescues in Utah, up in Zion National Park. They do it up Mount Charleston. You have a California team that's doing rescues on the Pacific, an Alaska team doing rescues out there in Alaska. Same with New York. So they are strictly rescue because they can go out farther than your Coast Guard entities. And they can jump in and they jump in with boats and all that kind of deal. Um, but we don't have CCT only squadrons. We are combined with everybody because we recognize that everybody's capabilities make us
Mhm.
stronger. It's why an ODA is so successful
Gotcha.
because you have specialties in every single one of those,
Mhm.
and that's what makes you stronger.
Gotcha. So now the non-soft TAC P guys, so they go out the big army and they drop casts or drop ordinances for big army units, right? And then
Yep.
um the rest of you guys work with soft units. So now is it one of those things like do you guys have like platoon squads kind of like the rest of the DoD, or how you guys, or is it hey like one area would have like two or four combat controllers, two CCTs, and then all you guys are like together in like a squad? Like, is that how it's set up, or?
So because it's Air Force, we have different nomenclature, right?
Mhm.
So instead of a platoon, we would have a flight.
Gotcha.
So in a flight can fluctuate in size, but generally we're going with a flight of 14, maybe 16, and that's it. So generally you have a couple of officers, and then the rest are all enlisted. We are predominantly enlisted force. Those are listed are the tacticians,
Gotcha.
just like every other soft entity.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, we have officers, but the enlisted are the ones that are the manpower. They're the ones doing the work.
Yeah.
Not to say that the officers aren't doing work. I'm not saying that.
They do their part.
Just saying, yeah, they do their part, but it's like it was rare. If like I don't know, you probably didn't even know the rank of the CCT you guys had with you
Um,
deployed.
I knew because of the task org, like whenever we
Okay,
go out on missions and stuff. But yeah,
right.
yeah,
But he was
that was
probably
it.
enlisted, dude. Maybe a
Yeah, yeah,
senior,
yeah, he
maybe an
was.
E4, E4, E5, because we're a
Yeah.
relatively young force.
Hmm.
Takes us a long time to promote. We don't do the E7 at 7 years,
Yeah.
right? Like so it takes us a long time to promote.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Gotcha. So
And
now within a flight, you have CCTs, you have PJs, you have everybody in one. How is that competition? Because I know every force and every unit has them, right? Like, how is that for you guys? Is it as fierce as all the other, soft
hell
units?
yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. It's a bloodbath in there. I mean, as it, it never used to be like um whenever you would have rotations, right? And hey, we're only taking 5 dudes this rotation, or we're only taking X amount of people. The dudes that are left behind are looking for excuses, like just waiting in a back alley with a bat, just ready to kneecap somebody to try and get on the rotation. I mean, that's what it is. And
Yeah,
hey, if you mess up, like that's just an opportunity for me to now get on the rotation. It's not a your turn or anything like that. It's like who's the best fucking dude to go
yeah,
out there and let's fucking get it, you know?
yeah. Now, can a PJ or um like can a guy that's serving as a PJ go get JTAC qualified, or is that just for combat controllers?
It's just for combat controllers and TAC Ps.
Gotcha.
So the way the TAC P pipeline is now is once they graduate, they are TAC P or they are JTACs. Like
Mhm.
that is it. That they are it is built into their pipeline. For us, it's an additional kind of school we have to go to. It's additional training that we have to go to
Gotcha.
in order to get JTAC qualified. But it's kind of inherent to us because we are air traffic control certified and we understand the way airspace works and we're used to talking on radios. It kind of inherently fit what we did as well. So
Gotcha.
that's why we kind of fell into it as well.
Gotcha. And maybe I'm, like, because I got a lot of questions about this because I'm not like
Oh,
I
you're
only work
good.
with combat controllers, so I'm not as familiar. What's the difference between a TAC P and a combat controller? Yeah, I understand a TAC P. Is it because his sole purpose or his sole job is to drop or just bombs, or like what's the
Yeah.
biggest difference?
Yeah. That is what they do. They support, Army brigades, Army divisions.
Hmm.
Some of them are airborne, some of them are light infantry, some of them are armor and mech. So that's what they focus on, and they're a bit larger entity than say CCT are. I mean, we're sitting at like 450 of us at any one
Gotcha.
time. Like, and tech Bs are sitting around, I think 1,500, 2,000, I believe.
Gotcha.
That number could be wrong, but
So those were the non-soft guys that you were talking about. They're the TAC
right.
P.
Yep.
Gotcha. And then the soft guys, combat controllers with the
Yep.
ability to drop just like the TAC Ps can.
Yeah, and so what we'll do is in because we have quite a few TAC-Ps that are in SOCOM and in the soft side. So what we'll do is we'll hold assessment and selections for guys that are already TAC-Ps at their units and they want to jump over to the soft side. So we will hold assessment and selections for them to come over, and then we'll integrate them into the teams, uh, just like we would anybody else.
Gotcha. And you guys go to the same JTAC qualifying course, right? TAC Ps and combat controllers go to the same, or is it different?
Because it's built into their pipeline, no. SOCOM and AFSOC, or Air Force Special Operations Command, actually has its own JTAC qualifying course
Yeah, down
for
in you
the initial qualification. Special Operations Tactical.
SOTAC, yeah.
Yeah, SOTAC. Man, of course I'm going to mess up the acronym.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, because I think we all go to that one. It escapes me
Yep.
right now where it's at. I want to say it's in
It's at
Florida.
Herbie. Yeah, it's at Herbie.
Yeah, because like my Echo's been to it, and a couple of other SF guys that I know have been to it. Because I think we
Special
all,
Operations Terminal Attack Control course. There you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. Dude, it's a brutal fucking course.
Yeah, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So
that course is brutal, man. Like, geez. So now you had a chance to deploy multiple times, like you've mentioned. How has your experience been with war? Because how old were you when you first deployed?
ooh, I was 20.
How was that for you? 20-year-old, and you're seeing all sorts of shit, especially as a combat controller, having to do BDAs and all of that stuff. Like, how was your experience?
I was right, wrong, or indifferent, man. I was fine.
Yeah,
And I have been. And I get it fine,
yeah,
but like nothing really stuck with me. Like I haven't had nightmares. I haven't
yeah,
had anything like that. I haven't had lingering um issues or thoughts
yeah,
about it or anything like that. Um it was and it's not because I dehumanized anybody or anything like that. It's just like, listen, if we didn't do this, that person was going to kill me.
yeah.
It was a simple, for me, it was transactional.
Hmm.
You were going to kill me, so I beat you to the punch.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
going to try and kill my friend. Like I I can't have that.
yeah,
So I'm gonna take care of this now.
yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah. I think it was I spoke with a guy the other day, and he's a retired Delta Force operator, and I asked him the same question, and he kind of put everything in perspective. He was like, "Yeah, like I this is what I signed up for. Like, what did I expect?"
Exactly.
And I was like, "That makes a lot of fucking sense. Like,
Yeah,
what do
I
you
can't
think
I
was gonna
can't
happen?"
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I came in doing what I did. I didn't come in going like I want to go smoke a bunch of people,
Yeah,
but I came in and I was like, I want to be part of a tight-knit organization that is considered among the best. And whether that's SEALs, ODA, CCT, PJ, whatever it is, like I just wanted to do the best for myself, best for the dudes around me, and the best for my country. And I got a chance to do it. Yeah, are there some unfortunate things that come with that in terms of taking life? Sure, but again, I thought of it as transactional, and if I didn't do it, or if the guys around me didn't do it, then it was going to be us. So
yeah, yeah. I agree 100%, man. And that's certain things just needs to be black and white. And I think
yeah,
that's one of those things that has to remain that way, in order for it to fucking work out. So now you experience war. You've been shit at it for 24 years. I'm sure you've seen your share of good and bad leadership. I think we all have, within the DoD. When it comes to leadership, what is your leadership philosophy as far as leading the guys that are underneath your command?
oh man, open and honest transparency. Like I will tell you if I don't know something. I won't. I try my best not to pretend. I I don't necessarily believe in the fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like we can all see through that. If I try and bullshit you with some bullshit answer, like everybody can go like, really, dude? Like that. Just tell us you don't know, or tell us like, hey, it's fucked, so we're doing it. You know. Um. So I maybe to a fault, I just over communicate and I'm very honest.
Yeah,
Um, which again probably has its time and place, where sometimes it's better to be more reserved or more, um, you know, compartmentalized. But I got nothing to hide, and I try and have as little ego as I possibly can. So, and that's humbling when you got dudes, and I know that you've experienced this, when you got dudes that are working around you and beside you, and you're working for that person, or maybe that person happens to be a subordinate to you, and they are so freaking good at what they do.
Hmm.
Like it's humbling to
Yeah.
see how good some of these folks are. And you're just like, dude, I just need to get out of your way because
Hmm.
you are so much better than me. Like, let me stop like keeping you down, and you just go. Like, go do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, fly, little birdie, go. You know?
It's empowering them, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, that's kind of my kind of philosophy going in. I try and stay true to that as much as I possibly can.
Gotcha. Now, has that leadership style or leadership philosophy changed when you get attached to, certain entity, or do you try to maintain that, throughout your, because what I'm sure guys understand, like as combat controllers, you guys get formed out to, all these different units, especially while we were, running heavy in Iraq and Afghanistan and in Syria, right?
Yeah.
Whenever guys were out the door, you guys get, attached to them.
Well, it's interesting for us because whenever we would get attached to somebody, we've got to start credibility all over again.
Mhm.
Now, maybe we would join a team that has, folks like you that had worked with us in the past. They're like, hey man, this guy's going to be good. But there's still that like, hey man, you don't know me. I don't know you guys. I'm the one joining your team
Yeah.
for, whatever it is, 6 months, and you need to be able to trust me. And the reality of it is that I'm brand new here. You guys don't know me. Everybody, every community has their people that are not that great.
Yeah.
Assessment and selections and that kind of stuff can only
Yeah.
do so much. So everybody's got a bad apple, if you will. So I still have to build credibility. I've got to prove myself to every single team that I've ever attached to include now. Just like if I go to a new unit, I've got to, sure, okay, I'm going in and I'm the senior enlisted of the unit, but I still got to prove myself.
Yeah.
I can't just assume that, hey, I've got this position, I've got this rank, and you need to follow me and you need to do what I need, you need to just trust me. No, I got to earn that shit,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Can't just
that's,
assume that everybody's going to buy in on my
yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah. And that's hard, man, because because within special operation itself, right, we have all these units of these super A-type dudes, and then you have your
Yeah.
close-knit team. And I know how difficult it is to infiltrate that, because even within our own companies, our own battalions, like we're so, hush hush, and we're so separated to where like fuck that team down the road. Like it's that competition. Like, hey,
Oh yeah.
like don't talk about team business around those, you know what I mean? And to come in from the outside completely and to try to integrate, it's no easy task. Um Now, would it be, and again, this is, we're not policymakers, so we can't change shit, but would it be easier for you guys to, I guess, just get freaking attached to like ODA, whatever, and just kind of be there with those dudes for, I don't know, years and years on end? Like, I don't know if those type of things have been discussed. I know, well, as we speak, USASOC is going through something like that, to where all the enablers we used to get, like CA, PSYOP, mechanics, like they're just making them like as part of what they're calling like a super ODA. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be like a 16 to 18 man fucking team, to where those guys will just belong to that team sergeant and that team leader, and they could build those relationships that are needed, because like, the last 20 years we've experienced it where we get a good mechanic, and then the next
Yeah.
rotation we get a shitty mechanic. You know what I mean? We get a good cook, we get a shitty cook. So we're like, dude, there's got to be a better way to do this, and they're starting to experiment with it.
Oh, and I'm sure there is. So one is we're just not that large. Like
Yeah.
back in the day, we still weren't larger back in the day, but kind of before GWAT, we were um, theater aligned in terms of, we had a unit that was focused on South America. We had one that was focused on Middle East and then Africa and that kind of stuff. And GWAT kind of just exploded all that. And then now we've realized that we've almost spread each other too thin. So there's just not enough of us to go around. Um, So we're probably going to start consolidating, but our overseas units are more aligned. Like I spent a lot of time over in the United Kingdom, and we directly work with 10th Group over there.
Hmm.
So we have a really good relationship, or at least we used to. I don't know. It's been a little while since I've been over there, but we had a really good relationship with them because we had a constant rotation with them. Like since they had the SIF and the blowout package out there,
Hmm.
like that's what we always had somebody in place. So we were never really playing a pickup game, but like we were always there.
Gotcha.
So that's where it worked out really well. But that was also really close proximity. Whereas, if I have my unit up in JBLM, okay, so I've got 5th Group up there. So we've got a good relationship with them. Our unit at Cannon, maybe they have a decent relationship with the folks out in Colorado Springs, but maybe not, because that's a long way.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I don't know how many Green Berets are there these days.
Not a lot, man. Like where there's number escapes me, but I know where the biggest is for is tier two units. But compared to like big army and all that stuff, like we're
Yeah.
we're still pretty small.
Yeah,
And
but
it's only
well,
getting worse, with
yeah,
these.
percentage wise, you guys
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, because the Army's the largest,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think you're twice the size of the Air Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like percentage wise, is probably the exact same as we are,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. Exactly. So
And you guys are still, the soft component for the Army.
mhm.
We're the soft and land warfare component for the Air Force,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Which Kennan Air Force Base sucks, by the way.
I
I spent some time up there, and it's
I
I think
know.
that might be
I
you
know.
guys' worst station yet.
It is the one that causes us the most retention issues, and not just for us. That's for all of Air Force Special Operations Command.
Yeah. Now, on the topic of retention, how is that faring for you guys is on you guys' side? Because I think I watched a clip of you guys on your channel, and you guys were talking about patriotism and how a lot of people are not joining like it used to be back in the days. What do you guys attribute that to, and what do you guys think it's the fix for this recruiting crisis, which it seems like everyone's going through that nowadays?
Well, yeah, especially because the last numbers just came out, and everybody missed their recruiting
Yeah,
except for Space Force,
yeah,
and I don't
just
know
like
how
year
much they made
numbers.
it by. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean it's wild, and I think there's a lot to contribute it to. Um, you know, I took an Uber. I've took a couple Ubers recently because I was on some trips and just talking to folks, and there were some relatively young dudes. A couple of them were like mid 20s. One was even younger, and they were talking about wanting to join the military, and I was just kind of asking them why, and they said that because they wanted to join something that had standards,
Hmm.
and which was fascinating to me, in because I can relate to that. I want something that's hard. I want certain standards that, and I'm laughing at myself because all I can think of is One Punch Dad, thinking of doing the Sergeant Major thing with CSM
Yeah.
does standards and all that kind of stuff. But um, when we start talking about in the media about lessening or changing standards to get people in, I don't think that that's what people that want to join prefer. I think they want to be held to a higher standard. At least that's what these three Uber drivers told me, is they want to join because of that, and they're having second thoughts about it because they see standards being lowered. Which again was fascinating to me because all you hear people talking about is, well, we got to change the standards. We got to lower. I mean, PT is easy now,
Hmm.
easier
Yeah.
anyway. Now, I think I just saw an article this morning though that the Army's looking to ramp up the PT standards. So
For
maybe
special
that's wrong.
operation or for combat arms. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was combat arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I know the Air Force right now is exploring. So, within special operations on the Air Force side of the house, we have our own, IFT or initial fitness test, operator fitness test. But the Air Force itself has a relatively easy PT test. But the maintainers have the same PT test as the rest of the Air Force, but they're exploring having a more stringent, a more comprehensive PT test
Yeah.
because they're turning wrenches out in the heat, out in the cold, loading bombs, all that kind of stuff, which is it's physical. That is physical business, and they're just finding that hey, we aren't getting the people that we need to be able to, I know I'm downplaying it, turn wrenches, but that's that is hard work that those
Hmm.
folks are doing, and the people that they're getting in, I guess, are not able to sustain that day in and day out because they don't have the PT standards. So now they're going to implement that or they're exploring it anyway. So, man, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just social media driving a wedge between all of us. I don't know if it's lack of trust in leadership. I mean, the last 3 years, there hasn't been, uh, I may or may not get in trouble for this, but I don't really give a shit. There has been a kind of a lack of leadership or a lack of trust in leadership in the DoD. I mean, it really has, and it's not. I have to caveat this. Like, I understand that there are equations or there are variables in the equation that they have that I don't have, that you don't have.
Hmm.
So they're making decisions that are tough decisions, and there's never ever going to be a perfect decision. But when you make decisions that are so detrimental that if you and I made, we get fired,
Yep.
and those people haven't even admitted that they were wrong. They were doubling down, tripling down on this is the right thing, never an apology, never an accountability kind of thing, going, hey, I messed up. Like that's what people notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
I don't know.
yeah, and with social media nowadays, it's no longer staying within the confined walls of the military.
No.
Now you have soldiers in uniform, on your TikTok and all that stuff, and they're voicing their frustrations.
Yeah.
And then you have, soldiers fighting each other online, and people are seeing this and they're like,
Yeah.
man, the military used to be like the standard holders. It used to be like you see a guy in uniform, you're like, man, this dude is legit. Now you
Yep.
really don't know what you're getting, right? Because things are changing. And I'm not blaming it on social media.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
blame it on leadership, man, because leaders, like, that's the type of stuff that we're supposed to, be aware of, manage, and make sure that, hey, in-house business stays in-house business, right? If soldiers are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, like, it's your job as the first line supervisor to fix that, right?
Yep.
At every level, there has to be accountability. And the fact
Every
that
level.
it's gotten this far, dude, I think last month the Marine Corps might have made their numbers, but I don't think anyone has made it since this thing started. Like, I think it's been, well, Space Force and the Marine Corps might be one-offs here and there, but everyone else has been missing those numbers.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have the guys that are in the military leaving, right? You have our generation retiring, and then you have guys that are in, getting out because of the state that the military is currently in. So guys are getting out by the numbers. And I'm like, well, you're not bringing anybody new in. You're losing guys. You can't retain them. Like, where are we going to end up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a shell of itself, and the wars are not going to stop. Clearly, they're
No.
still going on.
Yeah, and
So
it is concerning because the amount of tasks haven't gone away.
mm-mm,
They've only increased. We're smaller than we have been. We're still taking care of all the other menial kind of tasks and things that need to be done. Um, and we've been told for several years now, do more with less. And it's like, okay, well, at some point, there's going to be a point of no return, and things are just going to crumble.
yeah,
So whatever we're doing, whether it's poor advertising, poor messaging,
mhm,
lack of accountability, changing of standards, which again, I'm not saying that standards shouldn't change or shouldn't evolve,
yeah,
right? Do the argument is, that we always talk about is, do I need a cyber dude who is one of the best hackers in the world? Do I need him to be able to run, a mile and a half in 10 minutes? No, I don't
no,
need him to do that. I need him to eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew and
yeah,
hack and crush people's infrastructure.
yeah.
On the other side of that, though, if I can get them somewhat healthier,
Hmm.
they are probably going to operate at a better level than eating the bag of chips in the
Yeah.
basement, drinking Mountain Dew. I also, they're a military member, so that means that on the back end, like all their medical stuff
Hmm.
that I got to pay for years on end, like maybe if I can create some good habits or good
Yeah.
healthy habits or something like that, and maybe I can have some longevity with this
Hmm.
person
Yeah.
and to get them operating at a certain level. So I'm not saying that the cyber dude shouldn't have PT standards. I'm just saying that maybe we got to look at it. Somebody who's much smarter than I am have got to look and see what that balance is because I can see it from both sides,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I agree 100%, man. And because to me, like I always tell, the guys that I was in charge of, like, hey, you are a recruiting poster. Like every time you go into the public, every time you travel, like you're representing the United States, whatever, whether it's the Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, Army, like people are gonna see you in that Uber or wherever, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're in the military?" Like, "Oh man," and this you are their first contact, right?
Yep.
Like, let's say you're outside of the military town, and you're like first contact, like you're the first person this individual's interacting with, right? Now,
Yep.
just imagine if for whatever reason, let's say whenever you were speaking to those Uber drivers, you were bitter in some way, shape, or form, right? Like all you
Yep.
would have done is, like decrease that guy's chance of enlisting, right? Because
Yeah.
first contact, you'll tell him all this horrible stuff, and then he's gonna be like, "Man, I need to rethink this." And that's
Yeah.
that's that's what's happening with the lower enlisted guys. They're having shitty experiences, and now they're spreading that with people that they know who are then spreading it. That's my working theory of that's what's causing it, right? And I'm like, it's it's got to change, but it has to change from the top down. Like leaders have to
Yeah.
start giving a shit. They have to start taking care of these guys and making them feel part of something bigger, giving them purpose, so they're not just bitter all the fucking time, right? Because yeah, we have the commercials and all of that stuff, but dude, I can look at the commercials, but if I know somebody, I'm just gonna talk to that person, and
Yeah.
it just blows my mind, man.
Well, the thing is that um, the dudes that are instructors right now or the dudes that are online, right?
Mhm.
So our community right now, right? You got, me and the ones ready guys. You got you got
Yeah,
um Buck, you got,
yeah,
you know, uh Andy Stump, you've
yeah.
got the Black Rifle dudes. Like we're all we all were big with GWAT,
Hmm.
you know. So you have a lot of stories. You hear about some of the names that get thrown out there and some of the stories that are thrown out there. And a lot of that's just not happening now. And some of the folks that we got in joined to do that, to be
Yeah.
part of that.
Hmm.
And at least right now, they're not getting it.
Yeah.
So they're frustrated with it.
Yeah, which I understand, but they just got to be patient with it, man, because it's always around
Yeah.
the corner,
Oh
and
yeah.
it never
There's
fails. There's always something
Yep.
else going on, right? So hopefully it gets better, man, because I would hate to have to, come out of retirement, but if that's what's needed of me, that's exactly what I'll do, right?
I don't know that I would hate it that much. I mean,
Hey, we're getting old, man. Everything hurts now. Everything
it may
hurts.
it may hurt, but man, I feel like I can still do it.
Yeah.
But I say that until I get humbled on, you know, throwing a ruck on
Yeah.
and all my kit, and then old boys next to me just freaking just wrecking me, can't keep up with them.
Yeah, so now you mentioned one ready. Let's dive into that a little bit more. How did that concept come about, and what is you guys's mission right now on social media?
So we exist to give current and relevant information and mentorship out to the folks that are interested in joining, specifically Air Force Special Warfare. But um, much of those lessons learned translate to every service. They translate to the private sector. And it's things like as simple as just being a good dude, or if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you do it. It's simple like that. But there was just there's a lot of information out there that is outdated and or just flat out wrong now.
Hmm.
And that's what the intent was, is to get more messaging out there because we need to grow as a community, as a soft community, all of us, SEALs, Green Berets, PJ, SR, the whole deal. So, um, we don't really care if somebody joins an ODA or SEALs or whatever. We just want the best people that we can possibly be,
Yeah.
or possibly on the teams. And if we can help mentor people and guide them in that direction, like that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And like I said, we have a similar mission, which because we all know, like again, like I mentioned, the next conflict is around the corner. But as GWAT starts to fade out, all those lessons learned, man, like they shouldn't
Oh,
just
man.
fucking go away. Like
Yep.
war is war. Like if you look at, like if you study war the last 100 or 200 plus years, like it's, yeah, maybe the terrain has changed, but it's still the same shit. Like you, so there's a lot of there's a lot of common stuff in there. So if we can get on here and tell the stories and coach, teach, and mentor and help the next generation, learn from us so they don't have to make the same mistakes we made. Because when
Yep.
we came out, like there was no social media. There was no way for those guys to share their lessons learned. Yeah, there were the books, but not everybody had them. Right. So
Mm-mm.
some of those mistakes we had to, like, we made them. Right. And they led to people losing their lives. So if we can share some of those stories with you guys, in hopes that you guys get something from it to not repeat the same mistake, then why not, right? So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm I'm definitely glad that you guys are doing it on the Air Force side, and again, there's folks doing it on the Navy side and also
Hmm.
on the Army side. The Marine Corps side, I'm not sure yet. I haven't really come across anybody yet doing that.
I'm sure there are,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's important, and it's all in making sure that everybody else that is coming after us is
Mhm.
better than we were. And
Exactly.
they already are. I mean, the pipeline and the education now that folks are coming in at are at a way higher level than when I came in. So they're already better than what we were.
Gotcha, gotcha. But yeah, guys, if you're looking to join special operations, like I said, and you haven't been to One's Ready's page yet, make sure you check it out. Tons of information over there. And if I remember correctly, there's three of you guys, right? There's
Yep.
you as a combat controller, and what are the other two? Are they CCTs
Yeah.
also?
Aaron is a pararescueman and Trent is a special reconnaissance dude. So we try and represent everything, or at least, 75% of what Air Force Special Warfare is.
Mhm.
And yeah, go to the page, onesready.com, or we're at Ones Ready on Instagram or Facebook. Um, and then yeah, we'd love to have a conversation with anybody.
That's awesome, man. Dude, what happened to combat weather? Like, was that a thing? Is that still a thing? Like the weatherman? Like, does that fall under you guys's outfit also, or is it like big Air Force type deal?
So what happened was it was either 2018 or 2019, the special operations weather teams transitioned to special reconnaissance. So,
Okay.
but with that job change, with that mission change, we also, because they weren't going through a assessment and selection with us, so that change nested them into our own pipeline as well. So now when you see special reconnaissance dudes, they have a heritage going back to special operations weather, but they are going through every single aspect that we are going through. So they're, I don't want to say the dudes weren't legit beforehand because that sounds really shitty of me, but these dudes have been assessed and selected and are on par with the rest of us.
Gotcha. Yeah, I tell you what, man, the Air Force has so many different um qualities, or not qualities, capabilities that I didn't know of. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
because I was in my little fucking bubble. But yeah, there's so much, especially since I started getting on social media, learning about more about all the different branches. There's definitely a lot of capabilities there. You just got to be smart enough to join the Air Force. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, it depends on what you want. Like
Yeah.
you could throw Rangers out there too. Like, hey, do you just want to smash shit and destroy shit? Like, you should probably go Ranger. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? if you want to do the foreign internal defense and really kind of train folks and stuff like that and still do hits and stuff like that,
Yeah.
okay, maybe you should go Green Beret, right? So I mean, it all depends on what kind of calls to you
Yeah.
on what you want to do, you know?
Yeah. And the good
If you
thing,
like airplanes and dropping bombs, like okay, well that's probably us.
yeah. And the good thing about the DoD is there's no hard obstacle, right? So let's say you join the Army and you're a Green Beret and you want to do something different, and the Army doesn't have it, dude, you can go to the Air Force, right? You can
Yep.
do an inter-service transfer, right? You can go to the Air Force. Say you're in the
Yeah.
Navy and you want to, like, you could bounce back and forth between the branches and go towards whatever special operation and go towards whatever you want to do. I had a dude, like, he wanted to go fly. So he fucking left the unit and then he went to join the Air Force and now he's a pilot.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no hard obstacle. There's nothing that you can't do, right? You just
It
have
just
to
take
figure that out and just go for it.
Yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah.
You can't stop the army on a Friday or choose on a Friday to go army and then go like, you know what, I want to be a pilot. And then on Monday you're a pilot or you
Nah.
start pilot training. Like it takes some time.
Yeah. But it's
It
doable,
is
right?
doable. It is
Yeah.
definitely doable.
So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and shedding some lights on all of this stuff. Again, like I said, there's some stuff that I'm still learning about these other branches, but I know whenever guys reach out to me, like if they're interested in special operation, I make sure that they look at all the different ones, right? Like I'm not hoarding guys for the SF regiment. It's like, hey man, like what are you interested in? Or are you trying to be? And then once they lay that out, I'm like, hey, bet, go check out One's Ready or go check out Buck Rogers or Jake Swade, like and all these different guys, and tell them, hey, once you know exactly what you want, then yeah, you can call me back. I can tell, hey, because recruiters are the same across the board.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't care what service they're in, right? They're all shady. Right? So, all right, once you know what you want, list them all down, and then hey, go talk to that prospective recruiter, and then tell them what you want, and then you can go from there.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on.
of course, guys. And again, if you haven't checked it out, guys, One's Ready on YouTube, also Instagram, and also the website, right? Go
Yep,
go
that's
go
right.
over there and check them out, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And thanks for everything that you do, not just having me on, but everything that you do with your channel and the Patreon that you got going on. That mentorship is massive. And I think we're gonna hit a time
Yeah,
in our lives that we're going to need much more of that mentorship going on.
yeah, I agree. I agree 100%, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate you. And guys, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, guys. Until next time, take care of yourself.
I don't